The only completely stationary object in the room was an enormous couch, on which two young women were buoyed up, as though upon an anchored balloon. They were both in white, and their dresses were rippling and fluttering as if they had just blown back in after a short flight around the house. I must have stood for a few moments, listening to the whip and snap of the curtains and the groan of the picture on the wall. Then there was a boom as Tom Buchanan shut the rear windows and caught the wind died out of the room, and the curtains and the rugs and the two young women ballooned slowly to the door. The younger of the two was a stranger to me. She was extended full length at her end of the divan, completely motionless, and with her chin raised a little, as if she were balancing something on it, which was quite likely to fall. If she saw me out of the corner of her eyes, she gave no hint of it, indeed. I was surprised into murmuring an apology for having disturbed her by coming in. The other girl, Daisy, made an attempt to rise. She leaned slightly towards the conscientious expression. Then she laughed, an absurd, charming little laugh, and I laughed too, and came forward into the room. I'm paralyzed with happiness. She laughed again, as if she said something very witty, and held my hand for a moment, looking up into my face, promising that there was no one in the world that so much wanted to see. That was the way she had. She hinted in a murmur that the surname of the balancing girl was Baker. I've heard it said that Daisy's murmur was only to make people lean towards her, an irrelevant criticism that made it no less charming. At any rate, Miss Baker's lips fluttered. She nodded at me almost imperceptibly, and then quickly tipped her head back again. The object she was balancing had obviously tottered a little, and given her something of a fright. Again, a sort of apology arose from my lips. Almost an exhibition of complete self-sufficiency draws a stunned tribute from me. I looked back at my cousin, who began to ask me questions in her low, thrilling voice. It was the kind of voice that the ear follows up and down, as if each speech had an arrangement of notes that will never be played again. Her face was sad and lovely, with bright things in it. Bright eyes and a bright, passionate mouth. But there was an excitement in her voice that men who had cared for her found difficult to forget. A singing compulsion. A whispered, "Listen." A promise that she had done gay, exciting things just a while since, and that there were gay, exciting things hovering in the next hour. I told her how I had stopped off in Chicago for a day on the way east, and how a dozen people had sent their love through me. "Do they, miss?" she cried ecstatically. "The whole town is desolate. All the towns have the left rear wheel painted black as a mourning wreath. And there's a persistent wail all night long on the North Shore. How gorgeous! Let's go back, Tom, tomorrow." She then said irrelevantly, "You ought to see the baby." "I'd like to go." "She's asleep. She's 3 years old. Haven't you seen her?" "Never." "Well, you ought to see her. She's—" Tom Buchanan, who had been hovering relentlessly about the room, stopped and rested his hand on my shoulder.